Let's go.
All right, well, this is our County Commissioners Budget Work Session number 1. And this is the first meeting that we have with our commissioners and our various departments to transition from the county administrator's budget to the county commissioner's budget, which will be released in early May to the public. So first up, we have our friends from the Board of Education, Dr. Patricia Saelens, and her team here, Sid Pinder, Jane Towers, and Carla Pullen. And in your binders here, you can look at the tab listed as DOE, and there's some information in there and a presentation that they have prepared, and it is up on the screen here as well. So I think they're going to review that with us, and we can ask questions during the discussion and the presentation.
Thanks,
so
and
I'll turn
thank
it
you,
over.
Commissioners, for giving us this opportunity to come tonight and share our budget with you. We do have a slide deck for you, and you can see I have an amazing team with me tonight because we all can ask questions and things, so feel free to interrupt anytime you have a specific question. So we'll move right along. I don't know who's advancing the slides. Well, I am. Sid is.
I don't know if you want me to do this.
Actually, I think
He has to pay attention tonight. He's gotta
Might have to
advance.
call in second string.
So we're gonna.
I think Bruce may have to advance the slides as you're ready to go, because it's on the right.
His clicker should be able to.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's try it. Yeah, see if it'll. Okay, perfect.
Yay, thank
Great.
you.
We have the technology. All right.
Glad we
So-
got that all worked out.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Moving forward. So Commissioners, I know that you are well aware that we use blended resources to be able to provide services for our students and staff. Part of that obviously comes from you all at 60.5%, and then we get some state aid at 38.2%. We've been fortunate enough to have some other opportunities to add to those resources, which are our ESSER 3 funds, and this year we have focused those on Chromebooks for 5th through 8th graders. And 5 English language learner teachers. And those needs came out of a needs assessment that we did through the budget process, especially those EL teachers also through our strategic planning. That was a theme that continuously bubbled up to the surface, is that we have more and more students who need those services. And looking at a staffing plan, just like we do for our students who are special needs, we do a staffing just for special education, we're looking at a similar staffing plan of how do we meet the needs of those students. In addition to that, right now we're in the final process of completing the Maryland Leads grant, and in that grant we currently have 2 guidance counselors and 2 social workers. That is a 2-year grant through the state of Maryland. Those are federal funds coming down. It's really pretty much like the state's ESSER funds that have pulled there, and now they're trying to get those funds spent down. So again, through our needs assessment and doing a strategic plan, the guidance counselors and social workers, those needs bubbled up to the surface. We heard those most often of what are the needs within the schools, and that is those additional services for students. I'm sure you all understand what our students and staff have been through, and certainly the mental well-being of the students is something that should be top priority, and this would help to address those needs. We also have proposed some district needs as well as it relates to, we kind of put this all in one category for your retirement costs, your FICA, and your salary enhancements, all into one pot. In addition to that, adding the National Board certification, which is a mandate through the blueprint, and that has a price tag that while we do get reimbursed for some of those, we don't get reimbursed for the whole. So it's about $260,000. We have 26, which indeed we pretty much are better than most of the districts as it relates to how many students how many teachers we actually have certified. So we have a much greater number than our peers, which is a great thing, because those are, being nationally board certified certainly helps to be an expert master teacher. So that price tag of $260,000 that is mandated by the blueprint, we get reimbursed about 110. So we have to make up the difference between that. So if you put all of those together as a placeholder, we have the number there you see, 3.1 million. As it relates to healthcare increase, we're sitting at about 5%, which is actually, again, pretty decent. Kent County is about 4%, but then you look at Talbot County and Caroline County, they're at 10%. So, while it is still high, and we know every year we come back to it where it's high, I think at this point we're not going to get much better than that. That's something that we need to just kind of anticipate. And we need to figure out ways that we can do it with other programs, but this year we're looking at 5%. Through the corporation that we work with, they recommended that we take 1.7 million out of the reserve to be able to lower that cost so that it doesn't hit the employees. And so overall, we're looking at $550,000 there. And then the additional supports, again, these priorities came out of the budget process and the strategic planning needs assessment. And that was those 5 EL teachers, 2 guidance counselors, the Maryland leads, the 1 maintenance position, which was food service, which we had trimmed several years ago and didn't put back in the budget. And then 2 PE and health teachers, those are unfunded mandates as well. They have increased the credit count for health at the state level. We were at a half credit, so we need to go to a full credit for health, but you can't go to a full credit with health without going to a full credit for PE, because you have to, you would be lopsided on your schedule. And so with that, we have to put in 2 additional PE teachers, and so we're going to have to fund that. That's an unfunded mandate. The next that we needed to really hone in on is our leasing of copiers. And apparently in our needs assessment, we realized that many of the schools have copiers that are older, that their leases have come to an end, that they're not supported anymore, so we can't even get maintenance to come out and support them by fixing them. In addition to that, their click count, what we call it, is really 2, 3, 4 times what a click count is now because they're so outdated. So not only are they not functioning well, but they also are costing us more money than if we were to switch to do a leasing for the copiers. So we've gone out, I think that bid just went out again. We had put it out, we had to pull it back, and it just went out again, trying to piggyback on different contracts and such. But it's certainly a large need. I think you'll hear that probably in the schools. You may have even heard that from staff members, that they're having problems with that.
Yeah, at the meeting that Dick Smith and I sat in on your pre-budget meeting, that seemed to be the consistent message with all your principals at all the different schools, is the copiers and the equipment that they use is outdated or can't be fixed or can't be serviced anymore because it's antiquated.
Right. So this would remedy that, and right now it would be just the 56. We obviously have more than that in the district, but some of them we have a current lease with them. And breaking the lease, it would cost us more money. So it will be a phase-in type of thing over a few years to get us all on the same page of all leasing. The leasing has a lot of different advantages to it because we don't own it. We only keep it for a certain amount of time, and then we get the best and the brightest that comes behind it. So it's easier to maintain in the long run. The increase in tutoring funds, as we all know, we have tremendous gaps in our students right now as it relates to where they are pre-COVID, post-COVID. We know that they missed quite a bit of instructional time, and so these tutoring funds help to target in with specific students who have gaps in their learning, and that we can target and pay teachers additional funds to be able to support students before, during, and after school. And then you'll see $345,000, and this is for of varying things, materials of instruction, curriculum writing, training, conferences, and such. A lot of these had been trimmed from the budget year after year after year, and then never put back in, and they're very valuable. The curriculum writing, materials of instruction, they're necessities. Constant professional development for teachers to be able to stay up and be on top of the new curricular pieces that are out there. The training comes in with conferences, for example, AP training, which is advanced placement. Those teachers have to be certified. They have to go every so many years. And when they get cut from the budget, then we have teachers who aren't certified to teach certain things. Project Lead the Way is the same way. There's a lot of different requirements that are on some of our teachers, especially at the high school level, as it relates to having certain trainings to be able to teach certain content. And then the last is the textbook allocation. And again, this was more of a realignment. We've come before and talked several times about that was in a capital budget, which really needed to be pushed over to our operating budget in category 15. So I think the commissioners, you were really supporting that, but you were kind of supporting it in a different fashion. So we have to slide that into our operating budget, and so that's why you'll see that here. So overall, you'll see that this total category at about $1 million. So other supports, The painting, inspections, and insurances, again, these are things that really have been kind of consistently cut. When you have a very tight budget, you say, where can we cut? You don't want to cut people, right? And they're our largest part of our budget. So then you start trimming the fat around the edge and say, well, we'll just delay that painting till next year, or, you know, those types of things. And I think we've kind of done that so often that unfortunately we're not in a great position right now. We kind of have to play a little bit of catch up. Then the leasing to own 2 school buses, instead of outright buying them, we find that this is a more advantageous way to save some money, to spread those costs out, essentially, to lease to own those, as well as the maintenance vehicles. With the maintenance vehicles, you know, not only is it advantageous because this is more you can get a newer vehicle that you don't have to have as much maintenance on. And when you keep a vehicle for ever and ever and ever, it tends to cost you more money in the long run. So these vehicles get a lot of wear and tear on them from day to day. And then a placeholder for the compensation for transportation and those contracted services, and then 2 bus drivers and additional funds for substitute drivers. Bus drivers have been very hard to find. Apparently, again, 2 drivers were cut out about 2 years ago for budgetary purposes, and we've found that we have some routes that are really, students are on the bus for more than an hour, and to me, that's not acceptable. I think we can do better for students, and so those we've actually put in 2 substitute drivers this year just to get us through the end of the year to change those routes up. So this would just make those more permanent. And they're not new. Again, those are routes that were cut that were added in.
These are special needs routes where, you know, we have some significant issues on the bus that, like I said, they're on there for over an hour. So it's really something we need to take a look at to cut down that. I mean, I wouldn't expect anybody to be on a bus, you know, for over an hour.
Yeah, especially our needs students. So that, before we move, the next slide would be moving into capital and non-recurring. So the first part of that is basically our whole budget squished down into just a few short slides. And so I didn't know if anybody has any questions or comments before we move into the capital non-recurring.
Keep on rolling.
All right, sounds good. So capital projects, and I think that, again, we've seen these and shared these with you. So nothing on here should be a surprise to you, but the security vestibule at Bayside Elementary School, track resurfacing at Ken Island High School. The big ticket item there is the new central office, and you'll notice that that timeline has changed slightly. And so we've shifted that to kind of more of a 3-year project as it relates to the monies that are hitting your books. And then the roof replacement at Queen Anne's County High School. And again, that, if you would like, Carla can certainly speak to that cost of that. And because we know that the cost has increased. And so, and that the state has also increased their allocation, but how does that impact? You can share how that impacts with the commissioners.
Yes, so we know that pricing continues to increase for roofing, so we're looking at that almost once a month. We have also seen that with the state of Maryland, they are now including some design costs and fees as part of their split. We're not sure exactly how that's going to look yet, but we know that that's coming down the pike, so we would anticipate a little bit more of a 50-50 split than we've seen in the past, because design fees have always been responsible by local. So we're hoping that we'll get a little bit of relief there. But what, again, in looking at the costs and them continuing to rise, this project originally was about a $5 million project. In the last 2 years, it's gone up to a little bit over 8. There's some parapet wall modification and or repair that needs to be made as part of this, which is local only funding, and that accounts for about a $9 million project with current costs, which is insane.
Okay, any other questions?
And that one does have state allocation
Yes.
approval?
Yes, so it appears that we will be getting full funding of that. What was requested was about 4.2 from the state.
Okay, I'll keep moving along. Headed into FY24, you'll see the fire alarm replacement for Kennard Elementary School, and then track resurfacing for Queen Anne County High School. You'll see another part of that central office, and then the planning and design piece of Centerville Middle School. In FY25, you'll see the building renovations begin for Centerville Middle School, and then the fire alarm replacement for Queen Anne's County High School. And then finally, in FY26, you'll see finishing up that project for Centerville Middle School. And that's really all that's on that for that year. Questions on any of the other capital projects? All right. So that brings us to non-reoccurring projects, and we listed this out. And basically, just to remind everybody that the non-recurring projects really are projects that are kind of a one-time money allocation. So you'll see that the Queen Anne's County High School paving and milling, someone might say, well, isn't that just isn't that a reoccurring, not a reoccurring, but it's something that we would have to pay for all the time. But this particular is different because we're going to be redesigning that entrance, the same exact entrance, not adding an entrance, but just redesigning. So there's a little building there that's kind of in the middle. I know if you can picture it, everybody can picture it. Yeah, it's been there forever, and I don't know what exactly, I don't think they use it for anything, but kind of redesigning that parking lot, making it a little bit safer for our kids, our new drivers that are coming in and out. And so that's why it hopefully will be approved in that non-recurring. And then, as you well know too, that we are, through the blueprint for Maryland schools, we are really focusing in on our littles, as I call them, our pre-K students, pre-K 3 and 4, trying to build those programs. And you know, the state uses the term universal, but anyways, so trying to build those programs, and obviously in growing those programs, you know, they have their own furniture because they're very little, and they have lots of stations and lots of things that go around with that, and their equipment has to be different as well. So their equipment isn't as large as it is for our, you know, second graders through fifth graders, basically. So you'll see that there's a series of implementation of furniture and playground equipment over the course of 2 years to help us to expand our pre-K offerings within the community. Now, this is a one-time ask of the state. They do have to approve this, and I do have a letter because this is due to the state on March 31st. So that deadline is right on our heels. If you approve and we can forward that up to with signatures, then we can, they pretty much will turn that around fairly quickly in the approval process, and then we would know for our planning stages. Yeah, so May 1st, so there you go. May 1st, we would know whether these projects would be approved and we can move forward for the upcoming year. And that's about everything we have in a nutshell.
There was a report from the state knocking some of the schools a bit about parking lots, I think. Was one of those the Queen Anne's County High School parking lot? Do you remember that report? Is that something that pinged on and it wasn't really fair, but?
That's something that, over the course of the past 2 or 3 years, the county commission's been very generous with the capital alignment of, you know, county capital, and we've been milling and repaving Churchill parking lot, Saelens Elementary School parking lots, items that we've never been able to do before. And this is just really a continuation of that moving forward, and just trying to really kind of, we're not recreating the front entrance, but really having turning lanes that, you know, are lined properly, because for about 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon every day, you got 500-600 cars going through there, and I mean, it's hectic, and the sheriff's department helps out as much as they can. But you know, if we really had it properly lined and signage and a couple of widening a little bit, I think we'd be in a better situation safety-wise.
Plus, you're seeing a trend where there's more parents picking kids up than in the past.
Yes, we are.
So is this something, though, that we, instead of going through the NRC product side, just keep it in DPW?
This-
And look at DPW, just handle it in-house for this project?
This would be county only. There's no funding coming from the IAC.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
so instead of even putting it on your NRP to go to the state and have to worry about approvals, shouldn't we just kind of look at it in our budgetary for our side to get it done? I mean,
Well, we talked a little bit about whether it should be a capital project or a non-reoccurring, and I mean, I think from our standpoint, it could go probably either way. It could be a capital
Right.
project. That way, if it does go across 2 fiscal years, you don't have to worry about doing budget amendments, I think, you know.
I mean,
'cause,
that makes more sense budgetarily.
Yes.
Probably easier on you guys too, isn't it? To be able to stretch the project out like a typical capital project? Is that,
It's fine by me.
I'm fine with it.
I mean, was the scope of the overall job to repave everything at Queen Anne's High School?
I would say out of the
Right to the
allotment,
left, right?
the allotment that we had asked for, you would be able to do the left side. So
The student parking
the
area.
student parking lot, the
The
teacher
median.
parking lot, and then, come back to next year and do the other side of the parking lot in the rear of it. So based off the numbers that we looked at with the help of, DPW and all, I think you could get that pretty much going on with that. And then that would tie into the you could,
Board of Ed capital or?
It would either be Board of Ed capital or just a county capital project.
how do we treat the others when we did the other school parking lots? We
It
took
was
them in
Board
under
of Ed
ours.
capital.
Huh?
It was Board
You
of
guys-
Ed
Board of Ed
capital
capital,
in previous.
So if we made it a Board of Ed capital, wouldn't you still have to apply for the non-recurring
Yeah.
approval? Because if not, and we fund it, then it ends up being an operating.
That's true, yeah. Going in over it. Well, then, we do it as a county capital then.
I think that would work, right? Then-
Yes,
Or
we're
just do it
open
as
to any assistance from the county that's available.
Yeah, because the state's not giving us anything for it, so
Not
they don't even
eligible.
need to be involved.
Right.
Yeah. On the universal pre-K, so within Kerwin, there is a dynamic to look at using existing childcare facilities in the county, the bricks and mortar, so that we don't have to expand our elementary schools. Obviously, if you have an influx of 3- and 4-year-olds, you could push your numbers to the point of having to do mandatory expansions on the elementary. So there is, and money involved in it too, to go to some of our existing pre-Ks that provide services for 3- and 4-year-olds now. They would become MSDE certified. Am I right on that? I'm pretty sure there's a thing that we can
Yes.
look at to,
So-
and I'm not talking about just specifically the furniture, but looking ahead and knowing that that's coming.
Yeah.
To maybe start greasing the wheels with them to know what those costs are going to be, because they're obviously going to have costs, but I'm pretty sure there's funding within the Kerwin plan to do a lot of that too.
We do. We have a blueprint committee, and then off of that, we have several subcommittees, and one is just for the expansion of pre-K. They have a 3-year plan to expand out, looking at the 4-year-old programs first, and looking at your schools of highest need, and looking at our schools of where we have space availability. So taking programs like at Mattapique Elementary School, where they're a half-day program, making them a full-day program. And so over the course of 3 years, we've mapped that out, and with our last school being right here at Centerville, because they have the least amount of space, and what would that look like? And it gives us some lead time to start getting the numbers together, looking at what the capacity will be. Do we put portables out there? Do we move kids from, there's so many, we need to just iron all that out. So it gives us some lead time. That gives us the most lead time over that 3 years to be able to make that happen.
But I mean, are you gonna reach out to the community partners we already have, like I said? Because my fear is, if you take these existing preschool programs that are now catering to kids up to 4, in some instances, I guess, aftercare to 5 and 6, if they're only catering to babies to 2, they're not gonna survive, and there's still gonna be that need. They're just not gonna have the quantity of kids to keep their doors open. And we're gonna wind up
Absolutely.
losing those that we fought so hard through COVID to keep open, and we'd wind up losing them anyway, so.
Yeah, and we've tried to get a lot of them involved in right now. We haven't really had, and this is not just unique to here, this is unique across the state, that the amount of time and effort that it takes them to go through the accreditation process for the amount of money that they get reimbursed to them isn't really worth it right now. So unfortunately, you have to put a little skin in the game for them to be losing how many kids they have to our programs, for them to say, hey, we change our mind, we really think that we want to partner with you, how can we do that to be able to fill out the application? Because it's, to go through accreditation is actually extremely difficult.
Well, I get that, but.
And we have
out of
the
business
means
is
to
even
do it
worse
as
on
a
them.
school district, but not every daycare facility does have the means to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking, but out of business is even a worse scenario.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So right now, we haven't really had anybody say, oh, yes, we'll partner right now. I think it's going to come. I do. I think.
So
over
how
the
can we
next-
help you outreach to those businesses and get them to understand what's coming? Because some of them just may not even think it's real, and you know what I mean? So
Right.
they
I
may
mean,
not understand the ramifications coming.
I feel like our staff has articulated, but again, we haven't had anybody say, yes. I know that I was told that one did go through accreditation before, like years ago, and they're like, we'll never do that again, type of thing. So we have to kind of change that mindset and know that we can support them, that we're here to support them when we have the skill set to do so. I think it's just going to take time. I just think that the blueprint is still very, very new. The ink hasn't dried yet, as they say, and I think we're still learning a lot about it. And give us a little bit of time to get it under our belts, and then I think we can articulate it better and create some of those partnerships in the district. So it's definitely on our radar. We're definitely, been addressing it, but we haven't had any takers yet. And on the shore, I don't know that they've had anybody, to be honest with you. I don't always get to check in with over the bridge, but on the shore, we are very tight and talk to each other almost daily. And so
I'm just thinking from, with being involved in Mako and all, and this is going to be a statewide problem. I agree with you. Is there something I could take back to Mako? Mako may be making an initiative to push to get the state to realize the issue that's going to be created and let them close the gap financially.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying put it on the counties, but I'm saying it's going to be a problem. We can sit here and, today we're going to talk in 3 years and now we're going to go, man, look how that all blew up,
Right.
and it's going to happen because that's what's going to happen.
I mean, at the M&S conference, we did have conversations with Dr. Kerwin, and who was honestly and genuinely surprised that they just didn't think it would be a problem. They just felt like these daycare centers and that they would,
Magically step up.
Yeah, they did. They just felt like, hey, we're going to be giving them money. Why wouldn't they come and do this? But so he was genuinely surprised. That was later in the fall. And I think that they are looking at it, and they have it on their radar for sure that what they assume to be true is nowhere near to going to be true. And what are they going to do to help us to change that?
Okay.
So very good points, valid points, though.
Is the accreditation process, is that just curriculum? Is it also the actual
Everything,
physical space and facilities, everything?
Yes, it's everything. And it's extremely challenging.
Yeah, so some of them might not be able to within their existing walls, right? That could be a problem for them.
Very challenging. Churchill just, I believe, is the last one maybe to get certified, and Graysonville will be moving forward with Graysonville next year as we're moving to add a Judy Center there. So that'll be our Judy Center number 3 for us.
So
we're
you've
in the
already done
process.
Churchill Elementary?
Yes.
And so how many pre-K programs? So there's the morning and the afternoon? So you have 2 a day? How many do you have now?
They have full day.
They have full day
They
there
have
at
full day.
Churchill.
So their
Full day?
kids are there already full day.
Churchill and Sudlersville Elementary School.
And how many classrooms of the pre-K do you have?
They have, I think it's,
It's one at Churchill,
Okay.
and I think 2.
but they also have a 3-year-old program there that we're going to be converting into a 4-year program, because we had the need for the 4-year-old program there. We had to turn students away. So instead of turning students away, we're going to capture them next year. So we're changing that.
Next year will be 2, yes.
2, right, so next year it'll be 2.
Because you got to remember, prior, it was always income driven.
Right.
Same thing with pre-K. So now it's wide, everybody's, it's universal, the word's universal.
It's not, and it's not exactly universal, and that's part of the misconception that the blueprint put that terminology in there, and that's something that we have to do a better job of educating now and understanding. There's still a threshold there, and where there's not a threshold, then we have to put those costs in place. So while it went from 180 to 300 and going to 600, which adds, allows for more students to come in, there's still going to be people that don't meet that 600% threshold.
Well, I think they were shooting for 90%, so that's probably going to be close, right? I would think.
Probably, I mean, in some of our schools, we're gonna probably be almost nearly 100%,
Right.
but then you go to other schools where you won't, because of, obviously, the population we serve is not close to that socioeconomic, line in the Saelens, per se. But yeah, they've definitely done a better job. As I said, 180% to 300% to now 600% is significant, for sure. but it's definitely not 100%, and that's why I don't know how the term universal got in there, knowing that it was still going to be on a kind of a sliding scale, for lack of a better
I
word.
think it's the intent was to be universal. and
Probably.
And the money ran out.
Probably.
Honestly, that's what happened. They
Yeah,
had to move
probably.
pennies over to this bucket. So.
Right. So I think there'll always be, if that's going to stay and remain the same, there'll always be a need out there for, or there'll always be a population of students who will not take up that opportunity because they're either at home with their parent full-time or they're in a very small daycare setting by parent choice. Yeah.
I just want to point out a couple capital items here that were a little bit different than what was presented in your piece that we included in the administrator's budget. One is we funded the administration building over at Vincent. Now, based on the schedule we saw, we felt that you probably wouldn't need the full $7 million in fiscal '23. So we're trying to make sure we put those funds, designate those in the years that they will be spent. So we were looking at maybe $3 million in fiscal '23 and then the balance in fiscal '24 as part of our 5-year capital plan.
Yes.
I think the schedule I saw was like bidding that job in May of about this time next year.
Correct.
So see, when we're funding, like our July 1 budget struck, and we're funding the capital, what is your typical turnaround time on a project that you're actually, putting shovels in the ground or actually starting to? Because obviously with the supply chain issues, the cost escalations and things like that, if you're waiting a year, there's no number we're going to put on at July 1st of this year that's going to be even close to working a year from now, at least where the economy is now.
That is the hardest part, because we only have, 6 to 8 weeks in the summertime to do work, to get it done. Generally speaking, we're not breaking ground or doing work until that following June. So we're always like about a year behind, lagging that. So that is a risk that we take. And Carla's knocking down the doors every day trying to get numbers, aligned with that. But personally, I'm skeptical of the numbers coming down, over time. I don't really see that happening, but like I said, by the time July 1st rolls around and we get the money allocated, we do a purchase order and go through that process of getting the different bids. Like I said, it's the following summer that the work is actually done.
But what I'm seeing from my side out there right now is there's not a contractor in Maryland that's going to sign a proposal today with you and hold that cost. They're giving you 30 days, some cases 10 days, and then they're giving you 30-day material escalation. So if you're waiting 12 months, that's 12 escalations you're going to suffer through, at least on the material side. Labor's not as volatile, but material right now is very volatile. So I guess my question is, Carla, have you talked to MSA? Because the 50/50 projects are coming from MSA. Are they going to, through some of these capital projects, are they going to start building in escalators that we're able to? So if the county's got to go 50/50, that's great, but we shouldn't be, and right now we're going to bear the burden of the entire escalation because they're not going to come back and give us anything. Are they talking about being able to come to the table?
They are. So we probably won't see any escalators until next year's CIP requests, if that happens at all. The conversations that I've had with the IAC, because we do have several roofing bids, we have 2 that were bid last year that came in double the budget. We're going to rebid them in the next month to see where they come in. If they are again over budget, the state is talking about potentially giving us the balance. That goes for Kent Island High School too, because they would really like to see us be able to do that entire project. So I think they're looking at ways that they can help to fund this. The way the MSA projects and the typical CIP projects are split, nobody's really doing it yet. Everybody's just getting geared up and planning, so we're not sure how that's going to look. We would anticipate our first project where we have some of that MSA money would probably be Centerville Middle School, but it's not going to be enough to fund that whole project. We'll be looking at doing some of the traditional CIP along with that. We hope to see those escalators go into place. Everyone is in the same boat right now.
Yeah, no,
I guess, why can't you do it a year in advance? Why can't you go, like, say, Queen Anne's County Roof, work on that project to get it to a bid number by spring of next year, so when you come in here, by July, you'd have the money and you start the job?
That's what we hope to be doing in the future, because the state will be now paying for some of our design costs. We hope that we can go to them with a CIP request for design-only funding. We can design it in a year, and then we go back for the funding, and it's there and available to us on July 1. So we think there'll be a little bit less of a lapse in the future. It's just been difficult because planning only, to begin that a year ahead of time, the state asks for so much information between feasibility studies, between the cost estimates, between everything that we need an architectural firm to be doing. We have to plan that at least a year in advance.
And we got to pay for that up front. Well,
Yes.
under the traditional plan. but-
Under the traditional.
And I'm sorry, MSA is Maryland Stadium Authority, for those at home that don't, we start throwing acronyms, not everybody knows it. But yeah, so under MSA though, Jim, they are covering that on the front end, that we're not backfilling it like, in the past. So hopefully that does work. I agree, that's what they've got to do with this, because then you're going to cut at least 3 months off of the escalator, well, probably 6 months off your escalator costs. Quick.
And then involving the Kent Island High School roof, that's out to bid, or going to be out to bid?
Yes, we submitted the documents to IEC today to be reviewed. The plan is to put them out to bid in the next few weeks, as soon as we get comments back from the state to make sure we don't have any changes. And then we hope to be able to take it to the Board of Ed before the end of May.
How old is that roof?
It's 98.
20.
Still young. Was it 30 or 40-year shingles they put on it?
20.
20 years? Wow.
20-year shingles, and we're planning to go back with metal instead of, that's the hope. We want to see how the bids come in, but we think that the metal is going to be, it's going to give a much greater longevity, especially being so close to the water, and just the elements have really been difficult at that school and at the two Mattapique schools as well that have shingles.
Now, that was budgeted last year at the county level, right? So is there going to be, that came in higher? Is there going to be additional state funding, and will there be?
We hope so. For the Kent Island roof, what the IAC, what our representatives there are saying is, because we're telling them, we think that this is coming in double the budget based on what's happening, and they're saying, let us know, because we have plans to fund it. We heard the same thing last year for the 2 roofing projects that came over bid, and it didn't materialize. So I'm only putting as much faith in that as they are trying. I don't know if it will happen, but we're having those discussions.
All right, well, your ask is about, on the operating side, 6.6 million, and the county administrator's budget is $340,000. What's the Board of Ed, what is your actions if we stay where we are? What's gonna happen?
I got the question.
You might as well put them cards out there.
He's asking.
I'm like, he lost me, sorry.
Well, you guys, your ask in the operating is, if you add them all up, it's about 6.6 million. And right now in the budget, we have an additional $340,000 for you. So we're 6 million light. So I'm asking you, what are you going to do if we stick to where we are and you're short $6.6 million? What's the picture going to look like in the school system?
I don't know, because I'm thinking that we're getting $400,000.
What's your total operating ask? What is your total?
According to
operating
this, if you
I
have
think-
those pages up, it's like
It's
six.
just adding these 3 pages that you have,
Oh,
right?
Right.
4.6 and
What's
the
your
1
total,
million.
60 what?
Right, 60,889,
62 million?
62 million, I'm sorry.
We can do 62,000, but
No,
you're
no,
gonna run out
please,
quick.
no. So 62,889,000 and some change, but I can get you those exact numbers then.
Just say
It's basically,
63.
it's around 1.2 above maintenance of effort for this year is what we're looking for.
All right, now I'm really lost. Somebody.
So what do if you add up these 3 pages here, what does that equal? Is that the state and the county request? Like, what are these
It's
3?
a state aid, it's a county, and then eliminating some things that weren't needed in the budget, so.
Okay.
And then including some of the leads grants, because we thought it was important to include those positions. So this is just a presentation. It's encompassing the whole funding that we have.
So out of that 6.6, how much is the state funding? Is that what you're saying, is that the state's
3.
funding? 3 million of it?
3.6 this year. They went up another $500,000 this year in their funding
Let's see.
from the, under Kerwin. It's due to rise through the length of Kerwin at 3.6 this year to 30 at 11 million. So over the next 7 years, there's going to be an additional 7.4 from the state.
From the state.
That is correct.
That's February. Is that?
So for us mathematical wizards, are we saying there's not gonna be an issue?
I don't,
Plus 1.2.
this is last year's version.
But this one, the state should say the same, right? The 3.6 should be the same. I don't think that changed for Kerwin, for the state share.
No, right.
The-
Yeah, so the
Not
state
The
share.
state's 40,465,000. Yeah. So the state is
You're- I think the
40
question
million.
is- I think the question is, how much above MOE are you looking for?
1.2.
1.2, right.
Point two.
But that's at 62,889.
That's with
It
the
may-
current calculation of MOE, which is being challenged.
Right.
So we put a placeholder in on what we believe that it will be.
Okay.
But with the current calculation, we are getting 339, and our total ask is to fill into 1.5. So what I have shared with the board is, wherever it comes in. So if the new calculation comes in at $700,000, then we would ask the difference between $700,000 and 1.5. Our goal is to get to the 1.5, which is what was in the budget for last year.
Yeah, if you look, I think, Commissioners, if you look back on page 7, there's an enhancement sheet for all the departments. Page 7 in your book.
I guess I'm a little confused on why we had the 4 point and the 900,000, the 1 million, 7,000.
That was to give you a picture of our whole budget together. You guys are a sliver up, or not, you're more than, you're a lot more than a sliver, sorry.
Okay, well,
But that
I mean,
was to give you an idea of the whole budget put together, so that you could see where we're seeking funding for, so we're not just coming to the commissioners to ask for money, we're trying to use every available resource
No,
that we
that's-
have.
that's fine. No, that's-
And so we're putting a lot of time and effort into that LEADS grant, and we're very hopeful that we will get that grant, and that would eliminate us coming to the commissioners to ask for additional funds. So I think that was just to try to give you a full picture of the budget and not just what we're asking of you all.
So Jim, go to your last page of under your Board of Ed tab.
I saw that, yeah.
Okay, so,
Right.
so just keep in mind, the Kerwin number is that FY '23 number. So realize that eventually you have to get to that end game by FY '30. So it's a pay me now, pay me later on it, just keep that in mind, because you're gonna get
That's
to that number.
64, 123.
Correct.
Assuming no changes in Kerwin.
Excuse me?
Assuming no changes in Kerwin.
Right. No, yeah, but anything that changes now is gonna go up, not down. Let's face it, it ain't going down.
Right. And page 7 in the commissioner's binders also, as Todd had mentioned, the Board of Ed enhancement list, that shows the 1.525 that they are requesting, and in the county administrator's budget, there's 339,000, which brings you to MOE as it sits right now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
So county administrator's budget has it 62,898. Kerwin's got us at 64,2.
Got it.
So we have to go with Kerwin.
Well, we gotta wait for the,
Or is it not a law yet?
Kerwin 3.0 is not passed, no, to
Okay.
answer your
This is
question.
the 3.0 one.
If 3.0 goes through the way they're doing now, we're gonna get the escalator at 2.5. That's where it's right now. So, yeah.
Which will bring
And we
you
should
to
know that by April 11th, I mean, as the drop dead date, so it's not that far away.
Technically, the number that Patty that brought forward is the Kerwin number as of today, based on last year's Kerwin version, right? But if they come back with the hold harmless again and push it out and decide that they're gonna hold the 2.5% escalator one more year, then we're back to this number.
And when do we find that out?
Well, we will know absolutely by April 11th, because the session will be closed. But we hope to get some clarification before that, at least have a good inkling. I mean, we're stabbing in the dark, honestly, because, people are, there's some controversy as it relates to calculations for MOE right now. So there's a lot of pushback to say that the calculations are not accurate. They have a new person at MSD who's doing the calculations. And so, you know, the district CFOs have very much been a voice for the superintendents that the calculations are not accurate and that they are the placeholder that we put in, which was the 1.5. And so a little bit of time we have to wait to figure that out. But in the meantime, we used it as a placeholder, saying to the commissioners that if we aren't funded at that 1.5, that would be our ask of over MOE this year to make us whole, that we can't do what we need to do as it relates to, well, you saw like textbooks and you know, some of the leasing that we have and staff enhancements and things like that. We can't do what we need to do for our schools.
Well, what
if
are
don't.
we doing? I think this is the third year in a row, there's been a reduction in students.
Yes.
And over those 3 years, is it over 900?
No, we're at 380.
No, that's for this year.
Oh.
I'm talking about to add the 3 years together. I mean, because I think last year was over 300 also, and I'm just saying, if it's 900, that's
50, I think, right?
out of 7,400 students, that's
No.
It's a rolling average.
It's a rolling.
It's a rolling average.
It's not even an average. It's a total of 380 students
Less, yeah.
for each year, all put together. That's the total.
but you keep adding from the old years to the new year.
Well, it's
Because
not even that, because they're really using
is
the
all this fuzzy
2019
math.
Yeah.
number right now. The 2019, it's the rolling.
That's a
average.
third-
It's
that's a-
average grader,
Yeah.
they're using,
There's
and I guess
different-
that's where the calculations start to get convoluted. But for us, we're in the weeds right now. It's nothing we're gonna get until they come out.
Well, I
We're
understand
between
that, but-
62,899 and 64,1. Honestly, that's where we're at. This is old law, this could be new law.
I'm not worried about the law, I'm worried about how many kids are actually in the system.
The student population has gone down. It was like 7,500, now it's 7,100, and this year it's 7,102. So those numbers, the reduction is the number of students less than
Right.
the population previous year. So it's not like you add those up, it's just the total population.
But the point, you were making a point.
Thanks, Steve.
Which was,
Which was,
Yeah.
if 3 years ago, we have 300 students less than 4 years ago, and 2 years ago, we have 300 less than 3 years ago, it's still your population is declining. And I'm just trying to find out what that number is over 3 years, if the decline is reached to a number, because sooner or later, you're losing that many kids. What are you doing with staff to balance that out, to help you with the budget?
Right, well, this past year, we lost about 47 students. So from September 30th of this school year to September 30th of 2021 school year, or 2020, because this September was 2021. So there we lost 47 students across 14 schools. So you can't really look at it as a staffing reduction.
But that's
It would
one
be
year.
nice if they came packaged and they were all third graders or something, and we say,
Right.
okay, so we,
But
you
it's
know, we
spread
can
over
reduce the
12
third grade
grades.
teacher or
Yeah,
whatever.
you're
But
taking
it's-
one kid out of class here.
Yeah,
one kid out of
it's really
class
spread
there.
across all grade bands, so it's, you know, while it significantly impacts our budget as it relates to our state allocation per pupil, it's not as easy as just kind of plopping off, and it's different than removing a program or, reducing a classroom teacher because, it's all targeted during one. But I will tell you that we do look at staffing across the board, and we are realigning staffing, and where we are overstaffed, we're shifting it to where we need to be staffed. And so that's part of the budget process, and the principals have all been engaged in that, and all the supervisors as well. So it's something that we take serious, that we don't, just because it's been there forever, we don't just say, oh, they're great, it's been like that forever. We really have to look at the overall needs of the district, and we have made some shifts because of that.
Every year. Every year you guys have moved people
We
around.
do, especially this year, we had a lot of, that we had to address at the pre-KK 1-2 level, shifting some teachers around to where some were overstaffed. We had classroom sizes that were very small, 12 to 15, and we had, a classroom of kindergartners where you have 24, 25, 26, that doesn't work. I mean, that's just too many students, so we had to shift some, and right before school, we shifted a couple of teachers, which isn't the most popular way to do things with your staff, but it's what's best for kids, and so that's why we're here. We need to focus on what's best for students.
Have you lost any teachers because they don't want to make that move?
No, we did have some close calls, I felt like, but putting in a lot of supports to make sure that the teacher felt supported and was able to get kind of reestablished in their new environment, and that has been successful. So, yeah.
So, real quick, Jim, to your point, and it's one that, believe me, it's the one that I beat on all the time, is you turn these lights on, you turn the air conditioning on, it costs the same. whether you got 10 kids in a classroom or 20 kids in a classroom, doesn't matter. You drop 5 kids out of 14 schools, that's 60 kids. So you could get to that 47 number pretty quickly. But that's really irrelevant when you look at the system as a whole, right? The problem we have is when we get down to 10 kids in the classroom, we're still running the same number of buses. We just got less kids on them, but the same gas, same everything. So our costs aren't changing. The only place we're going to start to be able to save costs is if we look at operational costs in the schools themselves, which is lighting, HVAC, and all that. That's where we're going to see considerable savings on the operational side. The teacher side, like I said, whether you have 10 kids in a class, you still need 1 teacher. If you got 20 kids in a class, you still need 1 teacher. So I just don't, that's what I'm saying. That's a conundrum we get. It's what Kent County went through. That's why Kent County closed 2 schools, because they got down to where they had 5 kids in a classroom. Well, that doesn't qualify having a class at that point. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. The declining numbers is concerning, because you're still going to have to spend the same amount of money, because you got to turn the lights on, the heat on, and everything else, and put the teachers in the classroom so the number of students are available. So it can be concerning.
It's very concerning.
It's not simple math.
It's not. It's right, because you're still got to have a classroom with kids in it. And what's that number?
We did just get our projections. We get projections every year from Maryland. They come through Carla's office, and we did just get our projections. It goes out to 2031, and we're very flat, to be honest with you. We don't look like, you know, in their prediction, they're not suggesting that we're going to recuperate from this pandemic and losing this group of students that we've lost. And so that's very concerning. So we have 2 years to make
You don't think
that
the
up.
students are going to, some of them are more going to come back next year?
We're hopeful, but I mean, our September 30th count of this upcoming year, 22, and then our September 30th of 23, those 2 years will let us know whether we're going to recover. And if we don't, then we're going to hit kind of what we consider to be like a cliff, because we have all these supports in place for the next 2 years between ESSER funds and LEADS funds and Kerwin, and then we're not going to have it. It's, you know, where they've done this 3-year rolling average and they've kind of assisted us and helped us and limp along. They're not going to have that anymore.
Well, the whole harmless is going to go away.
It's
so
going to
that's
go
it.
away.
Yeah.
So that's when we're going to hit a cliff, and we're going to have to cut significant staff. I mean, when it comes to that, we're going to have to cut staffing, because that's really the only thing left we have to cut.
What was, just out of curiosity, if you don't want to share, you don't have to, what was the projection they gave you, the most recent projection for student population by 31? Do you have it?
Yeah, I do. Hold on one second.
Because Kerwin's projection
Oh,
through
if I
that was
can get online.
7813, so,
I think it puts us like in 2030 up to about 7,300.
so that's 500 less than Kerwin is based on. So, you know, if you do 500 times 9,587 per student, that's roughly what, 4.5 million, would be a $4.5 million reduction in the budget based on the
Yeah.
existing formulas.
We looked at it. It was a total of, I think it was 5.6 million, with it sitting at 380,
It fluctuates, and
380,
just like,
yeah.
we're not immune to declining enrollment across the state. They're seeing that declining enrollment in the school systems, all but one county, I think. So I know that under student services, they're looking to reach out to the families and make contact with them, and to get them engaged and back into the school system too as well. So.
And we do have a virtual model for students who haven't been able to really transition back, or were out on homeschooling and want an opportunity to be kind of a part of the school district, because they can participate in extracurricular activities where if they're in homeschooling, they can't do that. So we had about 40 students who have participated this school year using that model. We're fighting very desperately to keep that for those students, even though we've got a lot of pushback from the legislation on that. So, you know, kind of stay tuned on that one to see whether we can continue with that. But that, you know, that could potentially have been 40 more students that were no longer a part of the school district that we were able to still continue to provide services for and meet their needs in a different format, which, I mean, I'm very thankful that we had that opportunity.
Is that limited to the number of students you can do, or is that just the number that?
No, well, we did get so many funded seats through ESMAC, through a grant that came through the state of Maryland. So this was an ESMAC initiative, which is the Eastern Shore Consortium. So 7 out of the 9 districts participated, and we got a $1 million like starter grant to do all the research. So we took a year to research it before we actually implemented it. And so it was so much money per seat, and we got so many seats per allocated to each district based on your size. But then you could participate in as many seats as you wanted as long as you paid for them. So for me, it was advantageous for us to open it up to any student who needed it because the reimbursement through the state allocation was more than what the program cost for us. So I was like, let's not limit the program to just 10 seats I think we had. I can't remember
So
exactly.
who's doing the instruction?
So the instruction is through, it's a contracted service through
Okay.
APACS.
So third party?
It's a, yes. And they're certified Maryland teachers. And they work very closely with our counselors to ensure that, you know, if a student needs extra help or check-ins and things like that, that they're getting that. So I was able to jump online. I had to use my hotspot. So 3031, we're at 7,370. And next year, they're projecting 7,140. So essentially, it's, you know, 7,140, 7,200, 7,180. It's just staying flat, 7,150. So pretty much very, very flat. Not getting back up to where we were, which I believe was just over 7,500. I'd be happy to share this report with you. I had initially asked Carla, I said, you know, how accurate is the state with this, you know, because they sometimes aren't, you know, all of their things aren't always accurate. So within 5%, you said, typically within 5%.
Yeah.
Student
So,
population is forecasted?
you know,
That was the Kerwin original number.
Okay, that's the original number.
Well, like any other forecast, it's a forecast.
Yeah.
We didn't, who anticipated, you know, a pandemic to, you know, see the numbers go down. Before that, they were continuing
Rising.
on a rise, on a curve, so we'll have to wait and see. But right now, you know, the numbers do appear to be somewhat flat and stable over the next
Yeah.
10-year
I do
period.
think with COVID babies, we have job security. At least this part of the house does. Because we see, I'm like, in 3 years, there's just gonna be like a little explosion there, I think, in our PK. So,
Well, I think honestly, the reality is the politics of the pandemic, it's just going to see how long the hangover is.
yeah,
That's what it's going
Yeah.
to boil down to. In terms
Very
of
true.
student populations. But we are off now, considerably.
So you're basically saying right now your ask is 1.5 over MOE?
no, minus the 339.
Two.
Yeah.
1, 2, then, okay, that's what I got, all right.
Yeah. So essentially staying consistent with the Kerwin numbers, you know, on the sheet that we had prepared from before, so. yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? Oh, one other thing, did I mention the tracks? You had the resurfacing of both tracks. I think that was included in both the Board of Education budget and in Public Works' budget. I don't think it matters where it lands, but those are two projects that need to be done. That was part of the turf field
Yes.
renovation, so.
That was part of this project.
Is that another one we should do through our capital so that if it carries through? What do you guys think?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it matters either way, but I think Kent Island High School was the next one,
That's correct.
and then
And then
Queen Anne's
next year.
the following year, yeah. In those 2 years. Yep.
I think I keep it on our side.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, keep it on our side.
Sure. That easy, Steve.
I think we're currently showing it as a county project.
Yeah, I said it was included in both, and I think it was
okay.
left in
Never
Public
mind, we got
Works
it
for
on our
now,
side.
but we.
Keep it on our side of the capital.
It's funded, it's definitely funded, both of them are funded this year and next year, but I think it is right now currently shown in the DPW budget.
Okay,
Right.
yes,
Is that right?
yes.
Yeah.
So it'll just come away from theirs where they're showing it on here for that number.
Yes, yes. It's in the overall 5-year capital, that's
Yeah.
in the bottom line. It's-
Yeah. And I'll share.
I remember when textbooks was 300,000 in your budget. Didn't take long to get there.
Well-
4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it probably should be higher than what it is. Textbooks aren't like they used to be. They come with all kinds of extra contracted services that provide us with opportunities to use electronics to access different various resources. So where you still have the textbook physically, that's now $100 to $50 to $200 a textbook. It's like college books anymore. You also have all these contracted services that come along with them. So I'm surprised it's not a little higher than that. I think we were trying to get it back in a reasonable sense and not, necessarily reflecting exactly what the need is there, but a good faith effort to try to build on that within the operating budget.
Anything else?
Me.
We're good.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the conversation and the opportunity.
Thursday.
Now, this needs a signature. Should I leave this with Todd? That's the non-recurring?
Yeah.
Unless it's a moot point if we're going to go the other way, so what do we decide? I don't know.
We're doing the parking lot.
No, the parking lot.
And out of
So do they,
Yeah.
nope, so then you don't even need that. I mean, if you guys made that decision, then it's not necessary to sign that.
All right.
Because that was the only project we had on there.
Okay,
For this,
for this year, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
mhm.
Okay. All right, our next guest is Janet Salazar, our librarian for the Queen Anne's County Library System. And come on up, she has a presentation as well, and
Welcome.
I think Bruce
Nice
can
to see
cue
you all
that
again.
up. And in your books, under the QAC Library tab, that presentation is there as well.
How's the public enjoying the renovated space so far?
I'm sorry?
How's the public enjoying the renovated space so far?
They seem to really
Good
be
feedback?
enjoying it, so it's
Very nice event down there, the ribbon cutting this past week. We got
page 43.
a great headline in the Bay Times, front page, so just nice pictures. Yeah.
It was a very nice
Very
picture.
nice. Perfect day, too. I wish it was like that today outside.
We got lucky.
We were very
We
lucky.
got very lucky.
Because 2 days later, it was a nightmare.
19 degrees, right?
This is 54. Okay.
Let's go. Take it away. All right.
All
Go ahead,
right.
Janet.
Making sure you were ready for me.
We're all set, yeah.
All right. Well, I looked over your presentation, Todd, and I appreciate you, when we sat down and talked about our budget together, I talked about how when a library branch has an expansion or a renovation or even just a new branch opens in a library system, everything goes up by like 20%. So it was nice to see that I had just about 20% in Todd's budget, so thank you, I appreciate that. A little bit of background for us. FY21, we were closed an awful lot and had reduced hours, but in FY22, we've been pretty much open. It took people a really long time to realize that we were still open at Kent Island, even though we were under construction, so those numbers are not quite where I would like them to be. But we have almost circulated as much in FY22 in the first 8 months as we did the entire year in FY21. So people are coming back to the library, and that's nice to see. Our visitors are coming back as well. We've already exceeded total visits this year than we did last year. We've exceeded our programs as well. So everything is making its way back. So that's good, and that's what we wanted to see. During this last year, we have introduced some new services, story walks in partnership with the Parks and Recs. You can see those at Long Point Park, Sildersville Park, and Route 18 Park. And basically what it is as you walk along a trail, it's about a mile. There is a story that you can stop and read as you walk. So you read a page, and you walk a little bit more, and you read another page, and by the time you get through the entire thing, you have read a picture book. They are picture books, and they have been very well received, and we will continue to do those. In our partnership with the Health Department, we have distributed 17,821 COVID home test kits and 26,200 K95 masks, and that was an endeavor, to say the least. When we first started, we would get like 100 and we would be done in 30 minutes. I mean, people were just wiping us out. So it's nice to see that we finally got numbers that we can support. Our hotspot checkouts are still very popular as well. They circulate for about 2 weeks at a time. People can request holds on it if they want to, but usually they're in high demand, and so nobody really gets more than one time with them. So far this year, they've circulated 258 times. Last year, they circulated a total of 291, so we're already above, we're on track to be above what we did last year. And we've also started checking out fishing poles. So if you don't have a fishing pole and you'd like to try fishing, you can get a fishing pole at the library.
Stop.
No, in partnership with the DNR.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's 12 poles at each branch, and they have circulated 12 times, which I was just nice to hear that people are using them.
So at any point, have all of them been checked out?
I have never seen them all checked
Okay.
out.
So you're doing okay with the number of fishing poles you have?
I think so.
Okay.
If it gets to the point where we need more, we
Let me know.
will come back.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just nice to see that. I think it just underscores. Well, you can't get worms at the library, but we do have all the tackle that you might need. So
Oh, that's brilliant.
yeah, so it just underscores for me everything that the library is to the community, which is more than just books, and it's lots of different ways to think of the library. And in this next year, we're hoping to introduce streaming service devices like a Roku or something that you could plug into your TV, because not everyone has access to that in their own house. So that is one of the things.
T-shirts that say Queen Anne's County Library, free library, more than just books.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt with one question. On your total circulation, could you break down what it is that's, break down in the circulation, what's circulating? That's not just books, that's,
It is, well, we have books and we have DVDs and we have
can you
ebooks
Can you
and
break that down by number at all for me?
I can get it to you. I don't have it with me tonight, but I can get it to you. But between digital and physical items, the majority of it is physical items and probably about a third of it is digital, if that helps any.
You
But
said,
it's,
does that count like if someone's downloading a book with the Hoopla app or something like that?
yeah,
would
that's
count on
that would be a digital checkout.
But it would be interesting to know what that breakout was.
I will get it for you then.
Yeah.
And so what we're asking for all these lovely new things that we're doing and the fact that we expect an increase, especially at Kent Island, is a 2% COLA for our staff. This was based on the fact that federal employees got a 2.2% COLA last year, or I think actually in January. So if it's possible, I would ask for the same thing for my own staff there. They work very hard. Same thing with the 3% merit increase for those who merit it. They do work extremely hard, and the Kent Island branch staff has just been awesome through this whole thing with all the construction going on. So we do anticipate an increase in staff development, especially if we get our new positions. Our new positions that we are asking for are in support of our mobile library, which is coming at the end of June. We already have one position funded for that, but in anything mobile that when you're out and about in the community, you should have 2 people. So this would be our second position for that.
Where's the mobile library going to serve? Is it throughout the county or specific?
We wrote the
underserved
grant so that
areas?
it would serve the North County. That was our focus of the grant, but it is meant to serve the entire county. So it would probably spend a lot of time in North County, but there wouldn't be anything stopping it from going to Graysonville or anywhere else in the county as well. But when we wrote the grant, we were really targeting our migrant community and the people in North County who really can't make it
Ones
all
that
the
are
way
in
to
proximity to
Monroe.
one of the physical branches. That makes sense.
And I believe the mobile library is being fabricated now down at Tech Ops.
Yeah, it is.
believe,
It's
right?
at Tech Ops, and we just chose the colors for the interior today, so it's, we're getting close to having it being done, so that's,
great.
and they
Ops
they
is
think it
doing
will be done end of June, beginning of July, so we can have it for our summer reading program and have it at the fair so everybody can see it. And
We should have
Kudos to them.
a vehicle wrap on it of Commissioner Duno reading a book.
Yeah.
So it's driving around the community.
Not just books.
Fishing pole, right?
Fishing pole.
And fishing poles, there you go. We are also asking for a full-time public services associate and another part-time one at the Kent Island branch to help with the anticipated increase in programming and usage that we expect to have happen there. Both branches have asked for additional hours for current staff to help with covering the evening hours, page hours. So these are, when we came back into the library, we just noticed that we weren't having the same kind of coverage we normally had around dinner time, when our staff is at lunch, everyone else is at lunch and they're coming to the library. So just having enough people to cover all of that. is really what those hours are for, to cover meal breaks, and to help with the increase that we're having on Monday and Wednesday mornings at the Centerville branch. It's just something that's new that happened when we came all back from COVID.
Individuals or visits by,
And of course, we're anticipating a 3% increase on our health insurance based on what happened in FY '22. And the budget requirements for all up, yes, sir.
yeah, one question, is on your total attendance number, is that individuals or is it visits by?
I have to go back. Oh, total attendance? Yeah, that would be people who actually attended a program. Some of it was some of it was virtual. They attended online, and some of it was physical. So it's the
Yeah,
total number of
But I
people.
mean, would one person attending 5 times be counted 5 or 1?
It would, yes.
Teachers.
There, we don't actually take too many names, so it would be hard to figure
Alright,
out
so-
that, Amy Jones.
Okay, good, no, I'm just trying to understand.
Okay, yes. So it could be one person who attended 20 programs, and we're counting that as 20 people. I understand what you're saying, so.
Yeah.
So our budget requirements for the salary and the insurance is about $95,000. The new positions are about $105,000, and additional hours would be about $23,000 in our request. We're also asking for support for our mobile library. Even though the mobile library itself was paid for mostly with grant funds from ARPA funds, we also got a grant from Queen Anne's County Economic Development, and our friends have contributed money for the vehicle itself. We are going to need operating costs for the mobile library, and all of these are estimates based on what other mobile libraries in the state are doing for their gas and insurance and things of that nature. And so we're asking for about $770 for $7,750 for materials, about $4,000 for circulating technology, and that's for the service itself, because the actual devices, if they're hotspots, we get for free. We only have to pay for them if they get lost and we have to replace them. But we do have to pay for the service. And our operation requirements would be about $6,000. So that is the majority of what we're asking for is really operating. We just expect increases for the larger building for Kent Island and a few more staff. So additional payroll expenses, water and sewer, general and maintenance supplies, building and grounds, all of those things will go up a little bit. So we're asking for an additional $21,000 basically for that. Kent Island did ask for additional hotspots just for their branch to circulate, so we're put in money for that as well. And Collection HQ is a software that we would like to have to help us analyze our collection. It would keep track of things like where there are holes in our collection. And since one of our strategic plan goals is to really take a look at our entire collection and see where we are with diversity and equity and inclusion, this would help with that. We can do it ourselves, but it's really labor intensive, and this would be able to help us sort a little bit better. But it's not an inexpensive thing to have, so it'd be nice to have, but it's not inexpensive. And those were my basic requirements for my general operations of what we currently have. Then there's this really nice thing we would like to have, which is to add a branch in the North County, if that is all possible. There has been interest from the town of Sudlersville to have the library kind of come in and help take over that branch that they have at the Sudlersville Memorial Library. There is interest on our board side. I just have not had a chance to really talk to the Sudlersville Memorial Library board yet again about it. I have talked to them previously in the past, and they were not interested. But if there is money available, I will certainly go and ask them. But if there is no money for me to do this, then there's no point in me to do this, because we don't have it in our operating budget. So to fully open that branch at 60 hours a week, like our current branches operate, it's about $650,000 to have that branch open the whole time. But if you wanted to think about other options, We could open it only 36 hours a week, which would be 344,000, or only 20 hours a week, which reached 251. The biggest thing we hear from people up in Sellersville and that area is that that branch is just not open enough to really be of use to the students who are up there and who need a library 5-6 days a week and not just 3 or 4 days. Well, I think they're really open
Did
3
they give you
days
an
a week,
indication
so.
of how many hours are open right now on average?
I'm
Did they give
sorry?
you an indication of how many hours they're open on average?
According to the website, they're open 12 hours a week. So opening 20 hours a week would be a good start. 36 would be better, but 20 hours would at least get them in the afternoon, after school, and Saturdays.
How is their current facilities, as far as, if they were open more, and then with peak interest and more people go in there, can they accommodate the volume of additional people going in there? Or are we thinking it's still going to be around the same amount of people and there are just more access opportunity?
Well, it would be more access to the actual materials. I honestly don't know how well it would handle the more people. I think they have about 6 computers in there, so we would really have to assess the whole floor plan and see how it's working and see how we could maybe make it better if it's not working.
Does this cost include, we're adding, additional facilities, fishing poles, or, adding more books, adding more computers,
Yeah.
3D printers, the things that the other libraries have to make it more of a resource than just books. Is that
what
part
that-
of this?
I would
amount?
have to
that
really
reflected in those
assess the
numbers?
space and see what could be.
What could be done.
What could be done before I can even answer that question. But yeah, those are things we would have to look at to see. I know they have like rooms here and there that we could put a maker space in if we had to, but I'm sure there's something else would have to move, so. And I don't know the last time that collection was weeded or any of that, so I don't know how current the collection is or any of those things, but that is something we would start out with.
How do they get their collections? Just through donations, or do you know?
I'm assuming they have some kind of budget for it. I'm pretty sure they ask the commissioners for money every year, so I'm sure that's probably what their budget goes to, is their collection.
Yeah, another advantage we get by pulling this back over into the county's library system is it would make us eligible for state funding and state grants, which we receive,
Expansions, right. A
a
Renovations.
significant allocation for the Kent
So
Island
like what we
branch.
did with Kent Island, where we got a lot of state money put into that, we can't get that money right now for Sellersville because it's not part of the system.
Right.
It's huge.
And it would also open them up for the statewide delivery system and the Eastern Shore's delivery system. And just in Eastern Shore, we have access to $225,000 worth of subscription databases and another $350,000 in streaming resources. So all of that would be available to the people up there as well, so.
But they could get the streaming resources now, though, right? By getting a library card.
If they have our library card, yeah.
Right, they could still do that. But this would entitle them, if there was a book they want that's not there, they could put in the request and brought
And it
in
would
from
be
another
brought
library,
there.
which they don't currently have that. That is sort of a bigger
Yeah.
deal.
So that in a nutshell is
Just a
my
quick
very
question.
quick
I don't know if
presentation.
someone had asked this. Do we know how many people use that library up there?
I do not, I would have to get that
We get
information
that
from
number?
them. Sure.
I imagine they could probably provide that with us, for us.
I think John Wallman got it one time,
Okay.
when we were going down this road before, he had gotten the numbers for us.
Yeah, I think we can get those, but there are some organizational things we have to do to make this come to fruition if the commissioners want to go ahead and, fund this and then have the library system, bring under the county umbrella the Sellersville branch. So we can certainly work towards those over the next week or so and have some more conversations with the Sellersville Library Board and the town of Sellersville commissioners.
And then they would also have the resource of the Friends of Queen Anne's County Library raising funds for them, which they did an
Certainly.
amazing job
Yeah.
for the Kent Island expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great work down there for that.
They raised almost as much as my wife has incurred in late fees on books in the
Gotcha.
library, so
Gotcha.
it was really impressive.
Is that a coincidence, or do you think that's?
I don't have any more questions.
All right.
Mr. Wilson, all right?
I will
Any
get you a
other?
breakdown of those numbers, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
well done, appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Thank you.
The Board of Ed was in here so long, I was getting worried, so.
They're asking for a couple more dollars than you are.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, they do ask for
Thanks, Janet. All right. All right, Commissioners, ready to keep on going, or do you need
Let's go.
need a break? You good? Keep
You all by
rolling?
yourself?
For me?
Is there something wrong with that?
You better brought some backup.
That's my truck.
Jim Moran is on a roll.
Did you not forget you?
But we see a lot of smiling faces when you come in.
This is, I know I sent it to you email, but
We have
so I
a
would make sure.
Yeah, you
QAC tab.
you're coming in after the library, dude. You're not looking good.
Guys always take great care of me. I appreciate that.
Well, all good things must come to an end, you know.
I realize that.
All great things. Let's go. 54.
54.
Just give an overview.
Come on, Bruce.
I keep
Wake
it
up.
out.
He had his headphones on. He was rocking out to something.
And I sent it
He wasn't listening to
He's
us.
not even broadcasting this. He doesn't even press play yet.
Oops.
All right, Commissioners, this is our Department of Emergency Services. We have Director Haas here. We have the book here under the DES tab, and I think Nicole's going to kind of run through this, and
Opening up an increase.
Scott can answer any questions or make any initial comments, or we can just roll through and
I'd say dig in.
address them as they come. All right?
Okay.
All right?
So we start on page 54 for emergency services, and the first page, we just have a summary of the DES revenue that's in the general fund. And you will see that it increased by about $580,000, which a lot of that was grant revenue in communications, which is offset with expense as well. In the next page, we just have a summary of the grant fund, the DES grants that we account for in the separate grants fund. So it stayed fairly consistent with last year at $237,000. Now we move to page 56, which is the expenses by division. And you will see it went from FY22 at 11 million up to 12.4, which is an increase of 1.4 million. Included in this are the county administrator funded enhancements of 1,117,000. So those are included in the information that we're providing here. Then we go through on page 57, we have animal control, the DES Animal Control Division, which was an increase of 40,000, mostly in salaries and wages and also in benefits. Then we move over to DES admin, and the increase here that you'll see on page 58 is 714,000. The majority of that is the estimate that we put in for LEOPS, for the LEOPS enhancement, of 610,000.
And that would be for the EMTs and the paramedics.
That's for the EMS division, it's not for the admin.
division Only, not for the whole department, just for the EMS. and the
EMS,
paramedics.
not paramedics?
Paramedics,
No, that's part of the paramedics.
Oh, okay.
yeah, that group, yeah.
Scott's whole division.
Okay.
And then when we go to page 59, which is communications, this increased by 718,000, but this also includes some costs that were in the support services division, which was split, and some of those went to IT, some of it stayed in DES, but it's moved under communications. And you'll also see at the top, this is where the additional grant revenue is shown, the 433,000. And the expense that relates to that is down under other charges, under account 85300 911 communication expense. So the increase there that you see in expense is offset by the increased revenue at the top as well. And then there's several other accounts here that increased due to splitting out the support services. Down at the bottom, the maintenance agreements increased and also repairs to equipment. That was because of splitting out that division as well. And then the next page is just the total for that division. And then we have page 61 and 62 goes over
the emergency medical services, and there was also some cost from support services that was included here as well. Repairs for equipment had an increase because of support services and also maintenance agreements. Page 63, there's not really a change here. This is for fire marshal. You will see that it decreased, and Brittany and I talked about this, and it really had to do with the part-time employees and how they're accounted for in the budget software. So that's what the decrease here is resulting from. Okay, and then page 64, we have special operations, which the increase here was mainly the result of the salaries and wages and also the benefits. Page 68 just shows the division that was split out in FY23, so we wanted to present the costs that were the FY21 actual and also the FY22 budget, just so that you would have them for your comparison. Okay, and then we get into page 66, starts with the enhancements, and then we move over to capital. Do you want me to go through the enhancements, or do you want Scott to talk about them?
Why don't you go through them, and then if we have any questions, Scott can address them.
Okay, so in communications, we had 2 positions, the communication systems tech at total compensation of $94,000, and also the PSD2 at $74,000. The communication systems tech was not funded in the county administrator's budget, but the second position was.
So the PSD was funded in yours? And the communication systems tech, what is that role, Scott?
It's basically a radio technician, and that person would work directly under our communications technician that we have now. We've got one person that basically oversees the whole system, and they're spread pretty thin. We're trying to get that person an assistant.
What is a PSD2?
PSD2 is a dispatcher. So if you remember in last year's budget, we requested one for each shift, and we ended up getting funding for 3. So this is the one shift that's short. We're trying to make all the shifts even. So there's one shift that was missing a person from last year's budget that we're trying to get back in this year's budget.
Do you have 4 of them that work at one time? How does that work?
So basically right now we've got 5 on one shift and 6 on 3 shifts.
Really?
That rotate, yes.
Wow. I hope our phones don't ring that much.
I would gladly have you come over and spend a day with us.
Wow. I mean, but what do you need to have? I guess what I'm asking is, what's if one of them's sick, one of them's going to get married? How does that work with your?
So, very good question. On a normal day, we're lucky to get off the ground with 5 on shift, with the exception of the 5 that's on the one shift.
Right.
Our very minimum that we'd like to get away with, I don't want to say get away with, but the minimum that we'll do a day is 3.
Right.
Okay. And that's really pushing us to our limit.
But these help, that's what I'm saying, but going 5, 6, 6, 6, this is built in that you know, somebody's sick, somebody has vacation, whatever.
Yes.
You can cover it without overtime.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And they're on constant rotations, and they're constantly switching shifts.
Just Scott, the calls we get, or the reports we get from Scott, they're strictly EMS, right? They're not counting fire calls, or is that all calls when he sends it?
That is strictly EMS. That's just our division, and it's isolated to our division.
Gotcha. Okay.
Doesn't include communications, and it does not include fire service.
Do we have any turnover in the last 4, 5, 6 months in this group?
Yes, we have. We currently have one position open that we're advertising for that we haven't been able to fill. We recently filled 3 additional positions, so we're only short 1 right now. But it's getting very, very difficult for us to find trained people. So we're basically, where we were in a scenario where we were able to bring in trained people and it would only take us a couple months to get them up to speed, we're bringing people in at ground zero and have to train them from ground zero. So it's a lot more difficult now.
What's the cost of training from ground zero?
We're basically looking to get somebody from point A to B and cleared to function by themselves. on a consistent basis, you're probably looking at a good 12 months to get them fully operational. So you're looking at a 12-month salary plus somebody supervising that person on a constant basis while they're getting trained.
So it's a $70,000 training, because it used to be 40.
It would be easily in the 70 range. In probably the first 6 months, which we've also struggled with because of COVID, the training has not been as available as it has been in the past. So we're struggling to get the certification classes that they need also. Just one additional pitch for the dispatchers. If you notice across the street that the courthouse's parking has been slim, they have been training like crazy for the new CAD system. And if we lose one of these people right now, we've just spent a huge amount of money to get them trained for the new CAD system. Each one of them's probably had about 90 to 120 hours of training.
How would we lose them?
If they decide to go to another dispatch center,
Oh, well, I mean, that's.
change professions.
But we can take them from other counties. I mean, but.
I guess why?
We lose them to other counties, but we can get some from other counties
Why aren't
as well,
we-
right?
That's not necessarily true. And again, we're taking people in at ground zero. There's a huge shortage in all the jurisdictions over dispatch. And
So why aren't we having them sign a contract? If we're gonna train them, we should at least get a minimum of, to return on that investment or a payment. I just think that, if somebody's gonna come here and train and then they're gonna leave you when the training's done, that was their intention to begin with. So to me, if you put them under contract, say, look, as long as you work 12 months, nothing, but it's prorated. I don't know. I just think that I think that would put a damper to that and save us some money possibly.
to put a damper on it for 12 months.
Well,
Well, it's 24. Because I agree with Jim. I mean, that's what you do out in the private world. If you're gonna pay good money to get somebody trained, you're having them sign at least a 24-month contract to stay on, or
To get your
pay
investment back out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have something. You gotta put skin in the game. The world ain't free, so.
Well, we changed the system.
I mean,
We've
because
got
they
a
know
new
what
system.
they know what they're getting paid when they come in to take the job, right?
Right.
Yes.
And then you're training them, and they know what the pay's gonna be, so if they're already coming out of the gate looking to move somewhere.
That was what they were doing when they walked in the door.
All right. Just food for thought.
Happy to address that with our HR
Page
department.
68,
68?
yes. So coming over from page 67 were the two positions, and then we had a few position change requests, which we didn't add an enhancement for, and it was just really part of the career ladder. So those would just, any cost for those would just be assumed in the regular budget that is funded. And then the 911 communications expense, that's the grant that we talked about. And basically, in the past, these expenses were paid by the state, and now we're just receiving grant funds to cover them. So we do see an additional expense for that and the offsetting grant revenue in the communications division. Okay, and then we get to page 70.
Well, do we have an estimate, maybe Scott has, I don't know, do we have an estimate on what with the increased 911 fees, what that's actually generating now, in total? Also?
So
And
we
maybe
went,
just a comparison, what was it and what is it now with the new ones, you know?
so we were right around 250 per year, 250,000.
Right.
So the actual for the 20 to 21 was 540. We're still on track to do about the same this year.
So really just double it, more or less?
Yeah. But the hidden part, if you look at the additional, so we went from an adopted 500,000 to 945,000. We can also apply for all kinds of grants within the 911 system. So that's where that increase comes from. And what we were doing in the past were submitting our bills directly to the 911 board, and they were paying it direct. And Nicole in the finance office felt it would be better that we incorporate that into our budget so it shows the money that we're spending and the money that we're receiving. So that's why there's a huge increase. But we get right around $1 million from the 911 board per year.
That really wasn't even an option. I mean, the auditors require that. So if the state's paying something on your behalf, you still have to show the grant revenue and the expense. So that's why we're changing that.
So what we're going to do this upcoming year is we're going to pay for it through county funding and then submit for reimbursement is what our plan is.
So what was the total before? You say we're in $1 million now. What was it roughly before?
Before they
Everything we were getting
changed
to the-
everything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
before the commission, it was about $250,000 a year is what we were
So it's
receiving.
almost 4 times as much total.
Yeah.
It's gone up significantly over time.
And it's continuing to increase.
Rise.
Now, most of that money
They all
is
pay for it.
designated to go back into the 911 system operational side, correct? Does that mean, was that the
No, we
figure
can use
behind
the
it?
money for staffing. We can use it for anything that deals with the phone system.
Okay.
It won't cover the radio system, but it will cover anything that
Right.
deals with the
I
phone
got you.
system.
Like the communication systems technician?
It won't cover for that, unfortunately.
That's radio.
That's radio, and he doesn't answer the phones, or she. So it's got to be tied directly to the phone system.
Good try, Phil. Good try.
Trust me, we've tried everything we can.
Oh, Scott, I don't doubt that about you. I don't think anybody works the system better than you do.
If I can get a dime somewhere, we're getting it.
Yeah.
So we're on page 70, and these are the 4 EMTs and 4 paramedics that are being requested for the new station in the southern part of the county, which in the county administrator's budget, we show those at being funded at a half year. And also the last line, the logistics coordinator, that's a part-time to full-time position, which we did fund that as well at a half year. And then the next page goes over the new positions and also the overtime and holiday overtime, which I believe is also for the new station, is that correct?
Yeah, when you say new
Okay.
station, you're talking about 200.
Yes.
300, right.
So those are also funded in the county administrator's budget for a half year as well. So all of the employee costs associated with that were funded at a half year.
Scott, do you have any idea, because it sounds like the bill to get the reimbursements bumped up for the Medicare, Medicaid, and all that stuff for ambulance, on-site medical care, it got legs again, apparently, and it has a shot at going through. How much is that going to affect us revenue-wise? It's probably going to have pretty significant, right, I would think?
It's going to be significant. So
The
there
mix gonna get
was,
covered, a lot of stuff, mental health, everything got thrown into that, not just ambulance service now.
yes, and that's an excellent question. And I don't have the exact figures of what that's going to do to us, but I can give you a figure that we actually applied for supplement for this upcoming year, which will roll into every year from this. Nicole helped us quite a bit with it because they needed a lot of information from our finance office. We're expecting an $800,000 increase on our revenue on the EMS side, which isn't reflected in the budget because it was very last minute and the budget was already submitted when we applied for the package. We've got a very good chance of it getting approved, and we have an expectation of making about $800,000 on that increase, plus there's going to be an additional increase if the bills pass in Annapolis.
Okay.
The biggest difference between what we do today and what we're doing if the bills pass is we'll be able to bill for every service run instead of just what we transport and load
Right.
it.
Which is half. I mean, looking at the numbers here, about 50% that you're not getting anything on.
Yep.
Okay, and then that was the end of what we had for operating, and the rest of the information is on the capital budget. So there's a summary on page 72, which shows FY '23 and then also all of the out years. So the request that we had from emergency services for FY '23 was almost $895,000. So everything was funded in the county administrator's budget except $303,000 for an ambulance. But everything else was included in the county administrator's budget. And that's all we had, other than the details for each capital project, which is included. we can go through if there's any questions.
Any questions on the capital side? Yes, no?
I don't have any. Like, what happened to the ambulance?
Well, we
I thought
decided,
they weren't we going at a clip of 500,000 for this? In the previous budgets or no?
They're about 350, 400.
Well, we got one
Range.
for the ARPA funds that we're using for the.
That's what it was.
We got
yeah.
one through
We got one through the
vaccine.
That's what it was, okay.
I think it was really a timing issue, right? That we didn't think that it would really come through in the year, so it ended up.
Whether they being able to get them, right? Right. Took forever to get the last one.
that's right.
The pandemic was over when it arrived.
Right, it is included
It's in
in.
24.
It's in 24.
It's in 24 again, just
Right.
not 23.
Yeah, we pushed that a year. I mean, the issue is we probably don't need it till next fiscal year, but the reality is it may take
2 years to get it.
2 years to get it, but that's, you know, we're all in that same boat. All the other departments are in that same boat. I know Kathy's had buses on order for a couple of years now too. But hopefully things will start to improve with vehicles soon. But, yeah.
The answer to the question is we'll be fine.
Excuse me?
We'll be fine.
Very good. That's all we had for emergency services, unless there's any other questions.
I'm good.
We're good?
I'm lovely. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very much, Scott.
See, he
I
didn't need
definitely-
backup, Jim. He did a fine job.
I'll definitely pass on from staff. Thank you for the support over the last year and many years. It's been pretty challenging over the last year. We couldn't have done it without your support. So thank you very much, and thank you for the time tonight.
We appreciate you coming in
Thanks,
tonight.
Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Good to see you as always. All right, we have one last section here, Commissioners, for the sheriff, and we can run through that.
He's AWOL.
He's unable to make it today.
Are you going to transfer all his funds over to?
You're waiting,
That's what happened.
you showed up. Right.
We'll
I'm
let
sure
him
he
know.
was
Absence
watching,
is
so he
consent.
probably saw that.
So, Cole, you want to run us through the sheriff's?
So on page
Wait a
8,
minute, I'm sorry.
Nobody from the sheriff's department's gonna be here?
That is correct.
Okay.
Unable to attend this.
They don't
evening,
have a
so-
lot of, they don't have a lot.
We can have,
What was their reason why they couldn't be
There's
here?
some scheduling conflicts.
He's having a surgery on his face.
Surgery on his face.
Yeah, he's having a facelift.
Face looks fine.
Where's Major Boardman?
Yeah, where's his
we can
command
certainly
staff?
have the representative
Yes,
or the
it's-
sheriff come to a future session if you prefer, or we can run, there wasn't a lot of
yeah, we can go
additions.
through and.
Go
We'll
through.
make all the decisions right now. We'll be done.
Flat.
Any change, I mean, is what's it being proposed here in Todd's budget?
Yes,
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 it's all funded
Okay,
in his,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah,
There
the
was
two,
only 2 enhancements.
no capital.
the two major enhancements were tasers for the deputies, and then the rental for a storage unit behind the sheriff's office for all
Right.
his equipment. So that'll probably end up being a half-year funding as well, because it hasn't been constructed.
I'm okay with the taser enhancement if I can have one.
Okay?
You're probably the last one they're gonna give a taser.
No, I understand before you can actually have one, you have to
Gotta be
be
shot.
tased. I'm
That's
okay with
right,
that.
that's right.
We could arrange for you to be tased.
After a couple margaritas, you can hit me as many times as you want.
20,000 volt bottle?
Hold on a second, wait. Okay, go. Sorry.
You want to go through? Okay. So,
I think we're good. Is there any- you guys
Don't go
want
through it?
any other-
No, I think we're good.
We're good?
That's the only two things we had.
that was
That's
it.
the only two things we had, yeah.
We,
sure.
we reviewed it. If there's any question anybody has, we can bring the sheriff back for that one, I think.
Unless, of course, you've practiced for many a days and you want to do it anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Brittany, you?
I told him I'll answer any questions you had on his behalf. He was very distraught about not being here.
Oh, it's okay.
He was, yeah.
Did he deputize you? Are you officially deputized so you can answer the question?
Oh, I bet
He
she,
did
I bet
drop
she's
off-
getting a
He did
taser.
drop off shirts for my kids.
I bet she's getting a taser,
with
that's not
deputy
fair.
things.
You probably got a gun.
Oh, I need more than a taser.
So,
All right,
con-
so-
so,
That concludes
so for
everything we have
Thursday
for this
night,
evening.
Thursday, we're gonna,
so Thursday night, who do we have?
6:15.
6:15?
I texted Heather, 6:15 is probably a more reasonable time to get here.
Parks,
from there.
DPW.
Okay, and if we don't start right at 6:15, that's fine. We have Public Works and Parks on Thursday, so we'll start at 6:15. I think we advertised for 6, but we'll just leave it at that, and we'll start
If we
whenever.
get here
you
at
guys
6,
do.
great. If we don't,
Yeah, so we'll
think it'll be
start when we
close.
can.
Yeah.
It'll be close to that.
Yeah.
And we'll be right here in this room. We got, I think
Six-ish.
Parks is first, and then DPW
Is the,
afterwards.
I'm sorry, is Thursday 6 or is that next Tuesday?
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
this Thursday.
So I'll go over this, and if I have any
with
questions,
us to the
I'll
target
just
thing.
reach out to you. You and I don't have to do it line by line,
We've been
page by
cutting, but only,
page.
then you
If
get
there's
to walk through the whole school and
something,
check it out.
I'll look at it tonight,
Yeah.
We're
Or
allowed
I'll-
to bring
if there's a question I have,
budget and finance with us.
then I'll reach out to
Do you
you.
have your
That's fine,
Thursday?
all right?
Sure, certainly.
What?
Yes.
Food stamps.
Can I see that?
What does she want?
Thursday binder.
Yep, and then the other thing, the Chesapeake College meeting was unable to go off on April 7th, which was our work session 4. So we still have that available for the commissioners for
what
a
hap-
work
what
session.
happened
She
there?
didn't change the time.
Some of the other counties
Yeah, she's
couldn't.
already changed it to 6.
Well, you got 5 counties, you gotta try to
Right,
coordinate, right?
I just
Or 4?
So if there are any other county agencies that you want to
That's
see,
all work I'm gonna have
we
for
can
you
either
to
have them
email
come
me,
in
send
next
you.
Tuesday
Ooh, doggy.
or next Thursday if we need that session for any, final.
So when is the
Departmental
Chesapeake
review.
College thing gonna be made up?
We have potentially April 21st.
But they're not, they're.
And May the
basically
5th.
have a flat budget. It's
Is it?
Yeah, same percentage that
So
they've done.
the meeting would be at the college, and I think Dr. Coppersmith is going to have a dinner meeting, so if you want to check your calendars, I'll let him know April 21st or May 5th if we have a preference for all or.
But the 21st is out.
It will not be the 21st, right?
Yeah, 21st is out.
21st
That's
not
what it
happening
was.
May. We,
No,
there's,
no, it was supposed to be April.
no, there's another event on the 21st.
Oh,
that we
okay, I'm
have.
sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's the
That's the one
Republican
we-
Central Committee
that's the
dinner,
one we-
Lincoln
Okay.
dinner.
So how's May the 5th look? That's a Thursday after our budget hearing, so that'd be a long
May the
week
5th,
of
Cinco de Mayo?
meetings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
The 4th is the.
Cinco de
budget
Mayo?
fair.
Make it-
Not 5th,
Yes,
yes.
yes, sir. That's-
Bill, I don't know.
He's gotta have his priorities.
Bill's gonna show up in his garb.
Those were the
May
two
the
dates.
5th at what time?
They were shooting for around 6 o'clock, I think.
It is Cinco de Mayo, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll clear those dates in the next day or two. We'll let you know.
Your mom's?
This is from Brian.
Talk about this every year, yes.
All right,
Well, that's all we have,
Lighting
commissioners,
cheese.
so
He says,
we'll see you Thursday night.
cut the tape.